Okay, so first of all, we'll start by building the circuit. We will need an LED. I'm gonna connect the cathode or flat side, ground. We'll need a resistor to limit the current through the LED. On the calculation, this comes out to be around 200 ohms. So we can say this is 220, which is a commercial available value. Now we can start to code our program. It's gonna be a constant integer LED pin, which equals to 12. This defines which pin we are connecting the LED. So pin 12. We're using constant integer and not integer because integer is a variable, and we don't want a variable because this is a constant. Therefore, it's best to use constant integer. And remember that the constants always go capital. And we'll need another constant called blink delay. You can use this as a normal integer as a variable if you want to change it within the code. For this purpose is a constant, so we will define it as a constant. So it's 1000 milliseconds or equivalent to 1 second. Now we have to define in a setup what the pin does. So we say pin mode, LED pin, and what it does is an output. That's all we need in a setup. Now we can move to the loop. In the loop, we will say digital write, which pin, or pin 12, and what to do, set it to high, therefore turn the LED on. Now we have to say for how long. We will say delay, and our delay, which is blink delay. Now we have to turn the LED off, so we say digital write, LED pin low, and again, for how long does it have to stay off, delay blink delay. That's all we need, and it should work. And it does work. Expected blinks on and off at an interval of 1 second. If we can change this if we want to see it faster, and it blinks faster. Okay, now we can move on to the second example. This will use for loop and we'll use a function as well, so it's a little bit of an advanced sort of code. We can leave this the same and reset this to 1 second. We will need another constant integer. This time it's going to be how many times we want the LED to blink. So blink times, we'll say 3. And then we need another integer called repeats, and this we will use it to iterate through the for loop. So same here, we have pin mode as an output, and we will later define the function there. So now we can write a function, the function define void because it doesn't return any value. We will call it blink LED, blink LED, and it will take 2 parameters. So the first one is an integer called times, how many times has to blink, and the second one is an integer called duration, or how long does he have to stay on or off. Now we can write a for loop and say that for repeats equal to 0, because we have defined it at 0. It's always a good way to define variables, to initialize them to 0. It's always good practice, so keep that in mind. So we start at 0, and then there is a condition here: when repeats is lower than times, what to do? Increase repeats each time he iterates through the for loop. So starts from 0 and so forth, increases until this condition is false and he exits the for loop. Within the for loop, we can say, like before, digital write LED pin high, and then we say delay blink delay, digital write LED pin low delay blink delay. Oh, actually I have used duration here. Sorry, duration. Okay, so now we will write it in setup because we only need this function to run once. We will call the function now. I will say blink LED. Now we need to define the two parameters. So we have to tell them how many times and the duration. So we will say that how many times is 3. So we're gonna add blink times. And the duration is blink delay. We can try it. Repeat. Okay, sorry about that. See that it blinks once, twice, a final third time, and maybe 5 times this time. And we can see that it blinks 5 times and stops. Expected. Now we can proceed to another example. This is a very small example, and this is pretty good for quick writing. So we can keep these two. Now we will need another variable to read the pin state. We're not going to use an integer, we're going to be using a byte. A byte works as an integer, with the only difference that a byte only takes 8 bits and store 8 bits, so it uses less memory, and we only need to store either a 0 or a 1, so it works well. So keep this in mind for large projects. An integer can take 16 bits or 2 bytes, and a number up to 32,000, and a byte only up to 255. Now we can say that pin mode is an output. We can remove this, we don't need it anymore. And close the bracket. Okay. And now we don't need this function anymore. In the loop we say that digital write LED pin. In this case we say not digital read LED pin. So what this does, it writes the LED pin, and it writes in the pin the opposite of what the pin is. So it will go, if it's on, goes off, and if it's off, goes on. Here we use delay, blink delay, our delay time. This is very good code, as you can see, because it only has 1 or 2 lines of code. Pretty good. So now we can proceed to the next example. These are cool because are non-blocking. The ones we've seen so far are blocking because they use delay. Delay, it's sort of bad for the code because it actually stops the Arduino from what it's doing, and until the delay is expired, it won't do anything else. So now we can do non-blocking. So now we define the same, and we can do LED pin state here, and say the LED pin state equals to millis. So millis is a counter, so when you turn the Arduino on, it starts counting, and it just keeps track of of time pretty much, and we're going to be using to do some divisions, as you can see now. So link delay, so we'll need to use millis and divide it by, in this case we have to divide the delay by 2 because it's going to be double. So we're going to be dividing our delay millis by our delay, and then we can check the remainder of this fraction. If the remainder is positive, the condition is true, therefore it will turn the LED on or off. So digital write our pin and LED pin state. This is another good example of quick code. We can say here 1000 example, and we can see that it blinks on and off every second. So for the next example is another non-blocking one. It uses millis as well. So here we can we will need a different variable. So this time we're going to be using a long. So we're going to be using a long. Long is stores 32 bits. So 2 billion, one number up to 2 billion. In this case, we're going to be using an unsigned long. So what this does, it only stores 32 bits of positive numbers. So 4 billion, a number up to 4 billion. So that the counter can be quite long. And we're going to be using use this variable to monitor the time. And we need another boolean to monitor the state of the LED. Boolean and only true or false. So we set it, we initialize it as false, and we will initialize this as 0. Now we leave the setup as it is, and in the loop we will say if millis minus previous time, see it, it's greater or equal than blink delay, then it will execute the function, sorry, the condition. We're going to be nesting another if inside, and we will say if the previous condition true and this condition will true. So if LED state is equal to false, then toggle the LED state. So if it is off, turn it on. Vice versa, if it is on, another condition, else LED state equals false. So if it is false, it makes it true, and if it is true, it makes it false. Once these conditions are true, one of these conditions is true, so we will say digital write LED pin before and LED state. So it will be either a 0 or a 1, so high or low. And then we have to reset the counter. So previous time equals millis. So this resets the counter every time it iterates through the code. So it does keep track of the time. It resets after 1000, resets the counter, and it starts again. And we can see that as expected if we change. So these are 5 methods to blink an LED with an Arduino. You have explored 3 methods which are blocking and 2 non-blocking methods. I always recommend to use non-blocking so you can keep your code flowing and without encountering any issues.